Hello, I'm Christina and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make the best tasting refried beans from scratch. I soaked the beans overnight and then I cooked them in pork broth. I'll get started and show you the steps. Okay, so I'm ready to get started, and my first step here, I have my pork shoulder and I am going to cut it into about 1.5 inch cubes. Okay, so now I'm going to add my teaspoon of salt to my water, and I'm going to add the pork that I just cubed up. Then I'm going to turn my burner up to high. Hello, Lola. I'm going to turn my burner up to high and bring it to a boil. Once it's at a boil, I will turn it down to a simmer and cook it covered with the lid propped open a little bit. So this was at a boil, and now I lowered it to a simmer, and I'm going to cover it and just prop it open with my foil, as I want my steam to escape. If you don't prop your lid, it could potentially overflow all over your counter. And you want to make sure to not lose any of your broth, because you're going to use that broth to cook your beans with. Okay, so my beef has finished cooking, and next I'm going to remove it from the pan, and I will let it cool. And once it's cool enough to handle, I will shred my pork. Okay, so next I'm going to strain my broth, and I am going to cook the beans in this beautiful broth. Alright, so now I'm just going to strain all this carefully, not to burn myself. Okay, so my beautiful broth will go in the refrigerator overnight. By refrigerating it overnight, what will happen is the fat in this broth will rise to the top and form on top of this bowl, and it'll coagulate overnight, and the fat will be very easy to remove tomorrow morning. Alright, so here is my broth on day 2, and being in the refrigerator overnight, the fat firmed up, and now it's easy to remove it so that I can use my broth to cook my beans with. So here goes. So get rid of that. I'm also going to use this small tool to help get the tiny little bits of fat out. I like to remove the majority of the fat and just be left with flavor. All right, that looks good. Okay, next I'm ready to drain my beans. These are cranberry beans, and I soaked them overnight. They plump up nicely with a nice long soak. They have a lighter and nuttier flavor than the typical pinto bean, which is usually what people use to make refried beans. All right, so now I'm ready for the beans. And now I'm going to turn my burner up to high. I added the salt, give them a quick stir. Now I'm going to wait for them to come to a boil. Okay, so my beans are at a nice boil. I'm going to give them another quick stir. You want to make sure the beans are not sticking to the bottom of the pan. I'm going to turn my burner down to a low simmer. I will continue to stir them every 15 minutes while they're cooking. So once again, I'm going to use my little trick here with my foil. And actually, I think I'm going to turn it one more time so I can prop open my lid so that my steam escapes. Okay, so my meat here is just perfect and lovely, and what I'm going to do now is shred it. It comes apart so easily, and this allows me to just do it really quick by hand and keep my meat and discard any of the fatty pieces. And I am going to use it to add to my beans and save the rest of it. Okay, so my beans are done. They've been cooking for 1 hour at a low simmer, and they're perfect. All right, so next I'm going to show you how to refry the beans. And you want to add some vegetable oil to the pan. About 2 teaspoons is good enough. And my oil is just about ready. I did add a couple of drops of juice to see how the oil was doing, and it's doing perfectly. So next I'm just going to take my beans from my pot and just put them in my pan with plenty of that wonderful juice. And right in the pan, you're just going to mash them. From this point, you can decide by tasting them if you need to add more salt or pepper. I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper, the salt that I added to the water when I made the beans is enough, and that's how easy you can make refried beans. Okay, it's time for a quick taste test. Wow. The depth of flavor that develops in these beans using the pork broth is impossible to duplicate just using plain water. So this is the secret to the best flavored beans you could make.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much. See you next time.